Hey, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. This is our last episode of 2024, a year that was, it was 2024. And here we are at the end of it. It's another great holiday season. Of course, this is my favorite shitty movie. So the holiday we're most excited about is this upcoming Friday, which is Friday the 13th. That's right. It's Friday the 13th. It's the only holiday that really matters to us at my favorite shitty movie, not really the Christmas ones and all that stuff. And Hanukkah and Christmas happen on this. Well, Hanukkah starts, I think, and Christmas happen on the same day this year. So that's exciting. Multiple religions that are all based in the same, dare I say, nonsense together at once. And then Kwanzaa as well, and Ramadan. I don't know. It's all about the pagan celebration of the winter solstice. And tonight we're celebrating with this friggin' movie called Bad Santa. I have the old unrated DVD called Bad or Santa. And we're very excited to have Britt Layfield, who's an actor and a theatrical producer, and he manages the Soho Playhouse in both New York and an upcoming one in Las Vegas, which I want to know more about. Can I go to the Las Vegas? Because it's only like a 5-hour drive, so I could go to the lot and maybe do like a tight 5 or something. Anyway, he's on the show, and he brought Bad Santa, and I'm very excited to talk about it. Now, I know, I'll say this out of the gate, people are going to be like, how dare you call Bad Santa a shitty movie? I agree with you. It's a great movie. I do think it's one of the funniest movies ever made. And the reason we can call it shitty is there's a lot of Jesus people who find this very offensive, and just people in general find this kind of stuff offensive. And so we find it delightful because, Bad Santa's gross, and it's funny. But before I go on any further, I got to bring on my co-host. She is getting married next month. Holy crap. In the new year. It's crazy. I'm very excited about that. She, of course, is a great producer, and she loves shitty movies, maybe more than me. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, Tracy Mercer.
I don't know that anyone loves shitty movies more than you. I think that's how we bonded. That's how we found each other. Oh my God. Yes. So we are in the season. So I usually hold up stuff, but times have been so complicated and dark. And I thought, what do I have to hold up for the, Christmas season? And I'm just going to say this would be the NECA limited edition Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night action figure. Guys, look at this. He's got an axe. He's got an axe to grind. See what I did there? This is amazing. And I put it into my, holiday repertoire of decorations. It's right up there with my Black Christmas, nightlight, because nothing helps you sleep like Bob Clark's 1974. Black Christmas. So I love this season. I think, what, I'm going to stop myself from going down the rabbit hole I want to go to politically, because that's not what the show's about.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't go. Stay with Bad Santa.
Stay with Bad Santa. But what I will say is that certain things are going to occur maybe on the 20th of January of next year. So everything
oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I know, because no one would know.
I don't show stuff like you do, but I have something to show you.
Bring it.
Okay. This is also coming out on January the 20th, because I didn't want what you're frightened of to be the only scary thing that comes out on January 20th.
Thank you.
So my self-published novel, Murder Valley.
Murder Valley! Holy cow. Okay, that makes me feel better about the world.
I just want to compete with the scariest.
It's a tall order. It's
hard. It's hard.
There's certain orange people who are well funded, and I'm not obviously talking about the Oompa Loompas. They're small in size and stature.
What are those things, and where did Willy Wonka get them? It's
I
creepy.
assume CPAC. I don't know. I'm not up on these things. I'm not on the right mailing lists. But I am so here for this moment because true story. I may not always be the biggest Billy Bob Thornton fan. I think Sling Bay, which he wrote, stars in amazing, great. I actually think the Sam Raimi film, which more people should see if they haven't, A Simple Plan, it gets lost. I think it's one of his best films. The great Bridget Fonda, we miss her in film. I mean, Paxton, Billy Bob, great. I think he is fantastic in Armageddon, my favorite Michael Bay film. Billy Bob Thornton plays the head of NASA, and he turns to Liv Tyler and says, "I'm the head of NASA, and you're the daughter of fucking Ben Affleck. Your daddy Billy or Bruce Willis is going to space. What do you think we should do?" I'm like, "Oh, the head of NASA is asking Liv Tyler what she."
Yeah, well, he was at a loss at that point.
Well, he was probably because of all the Aerosmith songs on the soundtrack. I was too. I was like, I don't know, is this a music video or oh no, it's a 3-hour film with Jerry Bruckheimer.
I agree with you. I mean, I like Billy Bob's not my favorite thing, but
he's not. But I will say,
but he is always solid, and his choices are always interesting on some level. But like usually, what he chooses to do is not for me. But sometimes it is, and he's always good.
I wanted to open my comments for the show with Simple Plan. Armageddon is amazing. Sling Blade is truly like the best of that era of American independent cinema. I want to say that because I don't have warm feelings. I will say parenthetical because it comes much later. Goliath, which is a fabulous TV series.
Oh, that's a good show, yeah.
Particularly when Maria Bello's in the show, because I think she makes everybody better. But I love him in Goliath. I love that his character is like, I'm going to hang out at the Shade J, one of my favorite dive bars in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, for being accurate. He's not always my cup of tea. No. And Todd, God bless you. I would say at least 35%, because math is hard, so I'm just going to make that up as a liberal arts bitch, of our shows are dedicated to comedies that I would never pay to see, never wanted to see, but I always feel imbued because I'm like, they're forcing me to face what I want to see. And this film is a film that I know people who worked on it and produced it, and I know it made a lot of money relative to its budget, not a lot, but enough to be profitable to its budget back in its day, and it's very well regarded, and it is seen as a perennial. I managed to avoid it in the cinemas. I managed to never watch it because of Billy Bob gross comedy. I'm not the target audience.
Right.
Thanks, Madam Web. You should see because I think it's interesting. I have flaws too, guys.
No, okay? But I think you are the target audience for this.
I'm not the target audience for Bad Santa.
But you hate politically correct comedies, so this sounds
no. That's not true. I love what I consider to be witty, politically incorrect comedies. I don't know that I would put wit into this film, but every man in my life loves this movie. Most of my friends did. I just was somehow able to dance between the raindrops, and I missed the film until we were going to talk about it tonight. So, of course, I did my research because, I'm the liberal arts.
You have to.
I totally did. I was like, and I said this in the room with Britt. I was like, God, I could smell Billy Bob just watching this 21 years later. This film is so old now it can drink itself. You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
so you really don't like Billy Bob Thornton?
No. Again, this is why I preambled. I love him in Goliath. I love him.
I'm just saying what this boils down to is
but what I can't wait to bring Britt up to talk about, because I get why it was a success, and I get why the bros in my life love it. I get why the men in my life, and some of my girls love it too. It's not for me, but I'm not the audience. It doesn't matter. But watching it out of time, I'm going to be like the token chick on the show tonight, watching it out of time post the orange rapist felon, twice impeached, popular vote losing the first time. I don't know what happened this time.
Quick interjection. Do you know when Bad Santa 2 came out?
I do, and I was able to avoid that too.
Yeah. 2016.
But I can still smell it without seeing it. You know why? Because I know who the lead is. That's how palpable this thing is. So, but that being said, I enjoyed certain sequences in this film. I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate Terry Zwigoff, who's the director. I love Art School Content Confidential. I went to art school. That film is like genetically engineered for me. This one is not, but part of being a movie nerd is like, oh, I want to see what people love, even if I don't. And I have a lot of love for sequences. So I'm excited to talk about this film. I'm super glad that Britt is bringing it to our show, because I may not have watched it on my own, because again, I can smell Billy Bob just by looking at like a DVD.
He's not your thing.
He's not always, but again, Goliath, he's great in Goliath. I love him.
I get it. He's great in the TV show, but normally not your thing.
No, totally I like men who bathe. But let's bring up our guest and just bring it. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, let's do that. But before we do, just to defend Billy Bob Thornton a little bit.
Oh, good. He needs to be defended.
Without Billy Bob Thornton, Kurt Russell never would have had occasion to say, "Are you going to do something? Or are you just going to stand there and bleed?"
Wow.
Something to think about. Ladies and gentlemen.
You know I love my Kurt Russell, so thank you for that, because now I have a good image that smells good.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Britt Layfield.
Hi, guys.
Sir.
What's up,
I think it's about time I appreciate that you brought on the someone to speak for the Jesus lovers. Really bring the mood down on this movie. You guys are I'm here for the negative part of it all.
Oh yeah, because you love Jesus. You love Jesus. I forgot about that. I'm sorry, but so you must hate this movie, but you love it, and that's why it's your favorite.
Yep, it's the dichotomy within me. It's the heaven and hell tearing me apart inside.
Oh my God! But the Holy Ghost make bad production distribution? I don't know.
When was the first time, Britt, that you saw Bad Santa? Do you remember?
I think I saw it in the movie theaters. I think I've only seen it before. I just rewatched it. I think I only saw it twice, basically when it was in the movies, and then like that first time you got the DVD. I think it was actually your DVD, Todd.
Oh,
and we sat and watched it. And I thought, when you guys asked me to pick a film, I said, I bet that one has not aged well. Just a flyer on that one. Maybe this one hasn't aged well.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Really surprised that it did hold up as well as
comedically speaking, it does. I'm curious, Tracy, as to what you think doesn't hold up about it. I mean, considering that the whole point of the thing is to be offensive.
Yeah.
At the time.
That's a really fair question. I'm going to speak for myself 21 years ago when I had fewer lines. This would never have been my cup of tea 21 years ago, which is why I avoided it, which is rare because I usually see everything. And I had friends, again, who worked on this who were like, Trace, I'm like, I know, but I mean, but it's not that I'm going to argue this because and this is where I think, Todd, you and I agree a lot on this stuff. I'm a big fan of, we have to contextualize films, if they're truly great, reflect the time in which they were made. They stumble upon evergreen truths, and then you can watch them forward, and they still have relevancy. I mean, I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years forward, right? Like,
you're talking about movies like Funny Farm, Chevy Chase.
Maybe not that one.
Sweet Liberty. With Alan
Hey, Alan Alda. We love Sweet. My the way, Sweet Liberty, you and I are talking the same love language. Welcome, Britt. No, that. But I feel like here's my example. And I'm a weird kid, and I admit that. But I was in second grade, and Dad brought home the Betamax. And he's like, we're going to watch this movie. Oh, yeah, you like Goldie Hawn. And we watched Foul Play. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. It was awesome. It's awesome now. It'll be awesome 100 years from now. What will not translate is Kojak Bang Bang canceled. What will not translate right, is we're making fun of albinos. But if you can remove all of that and just watch.
Does anybody care if people make fun of albinos, Tracy? I think you're
let me
talking.
finish.
They do not have a good
Let
lobby.
me finish
You know?
the thought, fellas.
Nobody cares about albinos.
Paramount. Let me finish the larger thought. Paramount Pictures, which I'm going to tie it into Bad Santa because I'm that good. Wait for it. Paramount Pictures in 1978 said Goldie Hawn is the hottest female comedian star of the planet. Chevy Chase, when he's not on Saturday Night Live, maybe he could be a movie star. So his first hiatus, we're going to put him in a love relationship with the hottest, cutest blonde ever, since maybe Jean Harlow and, Marilyn Monroe, who was the Jean Harlow of her era, in Foul Play. But the log line for Foul Play 1978, Colin Higgins, was, what's we're going to do a comedy about someone's trying to kill the Pope, and, and we don't know. And Paramount Pictures is endorsing a plot about killing the Pope as a comedy. And we're going to take the guy from Saturday Night Live. We're going to take the hottest female comedian of our time, and we're going to make them a hot, sexy couple in San Francisco. And I'm like, awesome. So in the context, this is where we go back around to 2003's Bad Santa. It was like, you know what? We all want, if you're a studio, you want a perennial Christmas title in your library that every year can generate money. And so there was a very thing, and I want Britt, because I think Britt's done the research and he knows the thing. This started out as a Coen Brothers movie. It changed. It did a lot of things to get to this point. But Billy Bob Thornton was not like even the 10th person thought about for the lead. It was James Gandolfini. It was a bunch of other people. But because Hollywood was, even in 2003, complicated, the Coen Brothers said, we're going to be producers. Terry Zwigoff, you do the thing. Different casting came in. But like Foul Play, this is the connective tissue, inappropriate theater in a great way. And if you like this kind of comedy, how glorious that Billy Bob Thornton, independent artist, did Sling Blade, got a lot of nominations, made some great films. And then they said, you are now in a position where you can be in this. So I want to throw it over to our guest, Britt. Tell us about the genesis of, like, how in the hell did this go from a Coen Brothers film to not a Coen Brothers film? They switched studios. Help the listeners at home.
I don't know that much, but I do know, it started off as a Coen Brothers idea, and they just couldn't get it made. I mean, they kept bringing the script, and people were just like, no. But you did list off a few of the people. James Gandolfini was the person who was supposed to star in it. And I do really think that it got made out of a bunch of ideas as it ping-ponged around from people to get it to where it was. No one would touch it. So then, of course, who would touch it but a Weinstein? And he said, oh, yes, we will.
Is it appropriate and misogynistic?
Yeah,
I want it. Yeah.
Totally in for this.
Totally in for misogyny. Yeah.
Then it started ping-ponging around, I think, the way Studio Pictures really did at that time, and probably still do today, where it was like, okay, well, then we'll get the hottest, like you said, hottest actor, Billy Bob Thornton. But then as you look at, like, even though it's a good movie, if you really, like, take a half a step back, it has all these random parts that makes me think, what was left on the cutting room floor?
Yes.
Cloris Leachman is a grandmother in this. She has like one line. She has one line and doesn't do anything. I'm like, come on, that you don't.
Oh no, she does that. Her funniest moment is when she's walking away to make sandwiches down the hall, and she has to pick up her nightgown because she needs her legs to spread more so she can walk faster. Is fucking genius. Like,
yes. But
they're shooting you walking away
and in your movie if you don't have a lot of stuff like that. No, or at least you're going to give her the leash to do a lot of
well, that's what they wrote a nothing part for a person and said, who can fill this up? And they got Leachman, and she did. She's really fucking funny in this movie.
And we have to point out for viewers or listeners of the podcast, we recently have done Spanglish, where Cloris Leachman steals every scene she's in.
Oh, good.
She was actually allowed to speak in the James L. Brooks film because he writes dialogue for older women. What? Anyway, but she's
it's not a competition, Tracy.
No, it's not, because James L. Brooks won. But Cloris Leachman for the age. I mean, Phyllis, it's like, what? It's like, she's amazing. I mean, Young Frankenstein. Frankenstein.
But that's my point, as I actually think there's probably a lot of Cloris Leachman on
I think you're right, because I had the same thought, because I'm like, if you're going to cast a national treasure,
you don't give her a great, albeit great, panty grabbing scene.
Yeah,
you can't just give her that. I have a feeling maybe she created that one on her own.
I think
written in the
did.
script.
I think she probably did, but again, I think
But then you have Laura Graham. Why is she even in the film? There's no point to her character whatsoever, except for the fact that she ends up taking care of the kid at the end.
No. We have to have somebody. We have to explain how someone this young and attractive wants to mount aforementioned, perhaps smelly Billy Bob Thornton, because he has to be seen as, I think, someone people like. I don't know, but
somebody has to like him besides the kid.
But Todd said this before the game. I want to give him the thing. You talked about the Lauren Graham kink as a thing, because. So what was that?
I mean, I think in general, the concept of kinkiness in Just Humanity runs through not just this one, but the sequel. Characters are just in general kind of kinky. Everybody's having weird, dirty sex. And that's, maybe part of the concept of the movie, but I also just kind of like that. Like, attack on human sexuality is everybody's fucking weird and doing weird shit, and who cares? Sort of. It's just kind of fun.
Fair, but what's funny is that you introduce, because if it's a male lead in the early aughts.
Yeah, I get you.
Billy Bob is graced with a toupee. It's up to others to decide how that lands or doesn't for them. But when this girl is like, I'm the bartender and I have a Santa fetish, and then he's really kind of a drunk dick. And again, I can smell him from the thing. And then you do a hard cut where she's like, of course she has to do all the work and is mounting his ass in the car. But you're like, wow. Like, and then the idea that she would then go on and do Gilmore Girls, which is a whole different audience. I'm going to go from the
Wasn't she already doing Gilmore Girls?
Or it's a concurrent, if anything.
Gilmore Girls was already happening.
Gilmore Girls.
It's a hiatus movie for her if she got this, and maybe that got her this. But
like, there's an underlying. I mean, this is a crazy.
But that's subversive. If you're on the Gilmore Girls and you're mounting Billy Bob as like drunk Santa.
Oh, she was 3 years into Gilmore Girls at this point.
There you go.
So she was actually smartly running against type.
Yeah, that's what I think too. This was her first time to try to make it into a film, and she did run against type. But even Bernie Mac, who actually is probably some of the people that they had in mind for that role too, he was like the fifth one picked for that role as well. But he is really the perfect compliment too.
Also, we should also say, I mean, just a little bit of an RIP. Cloris Leachman, the legend, is no longer with us. Bernie Mac is no longer with us. John Ritter, who
his last film,
Bernie Mac, John Ritter scenes in this, of which there are 3, like where they're just in the office together, are comic gold. Like, regardless of what you think of the rest of the movie, if you can enjoy that interplay, but you don't like comedy. You just don't want to have.
But also, I don't know. I may be making this up, but I think what I love about what Terry Zygmunt, the director, did for the scenes with Bernie Mac and John Ritter. You have John Ritter reporting to Bernie, obviously, the black gentleman he reports to. And even in 2003, he's like, I want to be politically correct. I don't know if he's a little person. I don't know if he's a dwarf. I think he's doing sex that maybe, like, obviously there's so many anal sex jokes throughout the film. But like, literally, so you've got the white guy from Three's Company reporting to the black man going, I don't see the problem here. And you're like, that's actually subversive and kind of cool, and plays different through modern eyes, perhaps. But the idea that that's a scene. But if you look at the way that Terry shoots John Ritter, and then he cuts to Bernie Mac, and then Ritter, and then Mac, I'm just going to put it out there for people who like horror films. It's a little bit like Jack Nicholson applying for the job at the Overlook in The Shining. It's not cinematic. It's not particularly interesting, but it's very this and that. But he's playing black and white. He's playing sexual, and are you into the kink?
I think more importantly in these sequences, what he's leaning on as a director is the performances.
He trusts his actors.
And I think, and I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that these scenes were shot because so much of those office scenes are just shot reverse shot, that he had 2 cameras set up and he let them go. And I think it's kind of genius filmmaking, especially comedically speaking, because you're taking these scenes that would normally in any other movie be purely expository, and you're elevating them to arguably the funniest parts of the movie. Just by letting your actors go. And
I was going to say, I want to back up Todd on this one of sandwiches tonight. You guys are the 2 actors, so you know this better than producers. But what I appreciate about this is I actually don't think this is a particularly, don't hate on me, well-directed film.
No.
It's not accomplished. It's visually boring. It's badly lit mostly.
It's messy, but I think the greatest American comedies in history are always messy.
I don't know about that. But what I am here to say is that Terry is not necessarily a visualist, but what I love about Terry as a director is he is smart enough to trust you folk. He's smart enough to trust the actors to find moments. And so he's giving actors, okay, this is your proscenium arch, create your magic. That's amazing. And I think the way this film works, because there's an amazing, I mean, we're going to go through it because Brett's going to lead us through the synopsis quickly. There's an amazing crew of male actors in this. And then there's a couple women who I would argue aren't written for, different story. But let's talk about what is going on in this story. Britt, talk us through. We meet Billy Bob, right? He's dressed as Santa.
Yeah.
He's,
he has a little person friend named Marcus. And their whole deal, you find out at the very beginning, is every Christmas they will find a mall in order for Willie to be the Santa and Marcus to be the little elf, and they pose for the entire season, and then on Christmas Eve they rob the entire store.
And that the little person hides out as a snowman who looks a little Jack Frost with a carrot.
Little spooky. Yep.
Little spooky, who is like, let's disarm this. And then all of a sudden, you've got Billy Bob with his friend, right? They rob the banks that are, or the safes that are in the department stores.
But Billy really kind of, Billy
but
really wants out.
He's wants out himself, right?
Yeah, he does. He's done. But then, of course, the next year he becomes broke again. They go back to work, and that happens to be at the mall run by John Ritter's character, Bob Chipsaw, something like that.
Yeah.
And which Bernie Mac is the security guard, the head of security. But so it goes along. Meanwhile, Billy Bob is not getting any better. He's still drinking a lot, but he happens to meet Laura Graham, who, as we have mentioned,
at a bar. She gets him drunker.
And a fetish, and as a bartender. So hey, works.
But
she's like out of a song by the band.
I don't want to read too much depth into a film that I think might be the Formica of comedy, putting it out there. But there is a moment where the aforementioned Laura Graham basically says, Christmas, I have a backstory, because I'm given like 2 lines to tell you my backstory. So she has a sexual kink about Santa. And she sees Billy Bob, who's drunk. And again, I can smell him from the film. Smoking, drinking, because we can still do that early aughts in some bars, I guess. In
the Midwest, you can still smoke in bars.
Well, and that's
the right towns.
And they totally voted for the next chapter of America. I'm super excited for them to find out what a tariff is in real time. But we're going to not do the thing. But so this happens. So she's like, look, Billy Bob looks like he smells. I'm going to mount his ass in the thing. And he's like, yeah, whatever. But I think there's something interesting. And I think Britt, you called this out. Cloris Leachman is a legend. She didn't.
We haven't even gotten to her yet. But yes,
we haven't. But to your point of we cut out some stuff because she's there and whatever, I think there was an attempt. I've never read the script, But Lauren Graham has a character who's like, well, this is the backstory to why Christmas means something to me and why I'm turned on by Santas, and you are wearing a Santa suit, ergo I mount you in a thing. But Billy Bob has, as a character, my dad was a worthless, terrible father. He beat the shit out of me, whatever, Christmas. And so in a weird way, the romantic through line, if we're going to call it that in this film, is like we were both damaged by Christmas or influenced by Christmas, and we either make it sexual or, in Billy Bob's case, I'm a criminal. And so in a weird way, there's a psychology that is not in the film, I think, as played, but the actors are so good. I'm like, I'm actually believing Lauren Graham is hot for him. And there's enough in the script where I think these two actors take the moments they're given and do that, which is why I love actors, what you guys can do with like a couple lines and then you're like filling in a backstory. So as an actor, Britt, talk to us about Billy Bob's backstory as a character in this film with his father versus Lauren Graham's, because I
actually think that leads into like the next part of the movie, which he is being Santa in a mall, and there is a particularly heavyset kid who comes up to talk to him named Thurman. There's Thurman. Thurman is everything he looks to be, constantly picked on, this sort of thing, just wants to see Santa. Santa's his favorite, sees Billy Bob, and of course Billy Bob, I think, actually tells him to fuck off, which is fantastic. But then Thurman shows up as he's leaving the mall, and it's the first kind of break that you see in the hard exterior of Willie's character, because he decides to drive him home. And he gets him home.
But I don't want to skip over a very important point, because if we're going to be inappropriate theater, so the hot girl bartender wants to sleep with him because she has a Santa kink. The next shot is him having a post-sex cigarette in a parking lot, and then there's this guy who looks at him thinking he's cruising him. I think because we're still playing homosexual jokes in 2003 like this.
Yep.
And in a weird way, this guy starts to rough him up and throw him over the trunk. So the kid that he told to fuck off, who may be on the spectrum, I guess we would say today, the way the scene plays for me is the little kid stops this guy from doing untoward things to Billy Bob. And I think there's the sweetness that begins the plot line of the young kid who...
That guy, by the way, was in Office Space.
Yes.
What was he in Office Space?
He was
the Indian coworker.
Oh, that guy. I thought you meant the little kid.
No.
No, I do know you meant
they're beating on the facts.
The printer. Yep.
He's a guy who I always thought was funny, and I don't know why you don't see him as much anymore.
I don't know, because he's really good in this movie. But here's what's interesting. So you've got the young boys who believes in Christmas, may or may not be on a spectrum, saving Billy Bob from apparently a bad assault situation. Because again, he smells and he's tiny. Some of us might see him that way. But so this young boy saves Billy Bob, which is a weird freaking setup to set up this relationship where Billy Bob's, well, I got to take you home in my crap mobile or whatever. And this is where Billy Bob is in trouble because they're criminals, he and his little friend, and they've robbed banks. And he's like, somebody's broken in. I think it might be the cops are going into the hotel I'm staying in. So I need
Which
to
is never explained, by the way. They never go back to that plot point.
Never.
That's only the way to get him out of the hotel.
This film should have been 2 hours long, as if it were bad.
What point did they not go back to?
They never.
Someone breaks into his hotel room and is searching his hotel. He comes home and somebody's in his hotel room after he drops off Thurman, and he finds out that Thurman lives in this big house with just his grandmom. His mother is dead, and his dad is off exploring.
He's in the jail.
He's in jail for tax evasion.
But we've got the old legend that is,
I assumed it was Bernie Mac.
No.
But they never say that. They never explain it. Could have been.
I just assumed it because Bernie Mac.
But Britt's right.
We like to fill in the points for everybody.
But Britt's right. We never go back to who was in their hotel room.
And before we keep going, but that's what I think, that this is such a weird movie that
It is
kind
weird.
of, you hit upon a really great point, which I think that the director got finished with it all. And maybe he has some Cloris Leachman over here doing some slapstick. Maybe he has some plot points, and he's like, that just doesn't work. People aren't going to care about this. And this is how I know that, because, and you showed it before, Todd, you have the extended, the director's cut of it, and it's actually like 4 minutes less than the movie. It's a shorter version of the movie.
Director's cut
is actually shorter than the first movie, which tells you that he was just looking at what he had and picked the best parts, because the whole Bernie Mac plot line is kind of like a red herring, because it really it doesn't really add to anything except plot. I mean, it just fills out the movie.
It gives them one more obstacle, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for.
No, but they spend a lot of time on it.
It's because Bernie Mac is funny. But
see, that's what I'm saying. The director looked at it and went, we can work with this. Yeah, okay, maybe we don't really need to have that finish up nice. We just need Bernie Mac.
This whole conversation is how Caddyshack was made. It was just like, I don't know what's going to happen. Just let him do whatever.
No, yes,
I think that was intentional on that one, which is this. I feel, and I don't know, I feel like this one was a little bit more of like, they got done with it, saw all the parts they had, and went, let's just try to make the best out of this that we can. By the way, Caddyshack, they did that from the beginning. They didn't know.
Britt is correct, because I talked to a friend.
I don't know, but I don't know the difference of the amounts of cocaine that were taken during each production, and I would need to know that to really understand the truth.
I will say, I have friends, again, who produced and worked on this movie. Britt is absolutely right. Terry did his cut. The Weinsteins came in and did what they do, which was very Edward Scissorhandsy. And they went for what they thought was the bigger joke. So in terms of the plot, there are scenes that are cut. So your instincts are correct. From what I heard, there's like 30 minutes that, whatever.
And it feels that way. But the great thing about the movie is
that's how it got put together.
But it works. It still works. That shows you at least how smart
it works. But and Todd says this a lot on our show, and I think he's right. I mean, if you're going to have a comedy that works, if you can be an hour and 20 to an hour and 40, great. That's a good The problem now is when Judd Apatow is like, here's the director's cut of Knocked Up. It's 2.5 hours. I was like, well, that's at least 15.
Yeah, but even in that era, actually,
than freaking Lawrence of Arabia. When your director's cut of Knocked Up is competing with David Lean, and you have nothing to say,
but you're making a great case for Bad Santa itself at the time. This is at the height of Apatow. This is at the birth of Apatow movies. This is the same time. This is the same era. And its unrated version is an hour 39 minutes. So you can't say your problem with Bad Santa is it's too long.
No, my problem is that it's not funny for me, but I'm not the target audience.
Well, I get it.
But I feel like, but to be fair to Terry, and I think Britt brought this up earlier, this film was studio pick and choose, which is why it's uneven in places. It works for, again, I'm saying this, almost every man in my life is like, this is a perennial. I'm like, cool. But
you seem to be making men villains for liking Bad Santa.
No, I'm not. No. Oh my God, I love Bad Santa.
About wokeness and
by the way, I'm putting this out there. I am the suffragette for Madam Web. I love, and I do not apologize for Bad Santa.
I don't want to watch Madam Web ever.
I wish you did, because it's so fun. Dakota, we move on. But my point, though, is that, and Britt is right, because I talked to friends who worked on this who did not want to be quoted. The film was eviscerated, and the Weinsteins did their thing. It wasn't Terry's vision, whatever. So what we're seeing, it works, because, again, every dude I know loves this movie. A lot of women I know love this movie, too. I'm just saying that is true. Terry may not feel that way, but this was a different era. But that being said, for people who like this kind of comedy, this film shines, right? Which is why we're talking about it. It's shitty if you're not into this kind of comedy, I guess. I actually think, and as I said at the top of the show, I think there's a lot of great scenes in this movie, but I feel like because I know that they screwed with the director and they re-edited his movie, I want to give some grace because there are plot holes that, again, Britt has already led us through. It's no shame because this was the beginning of corporate nonsense, but it's okay for us to be like, we love film. And when you relegate the national treasure that is Cloris Leachman to almost no lines and these kinds of shots, it's all right. But it was the beginning, I would argue, of the change in Hollywood. And it's okay, but
yeah,
I think
it's more interesting to me to like put it in the realm of comedy that it was. So 1999
yes.
had like
So,
1999.
So Britt, like we're here. We have a whole scene about anal sex. I am not convinced this is Billy Bob's leg, but I don't want to judge.
You would think it has much hairier legs than that.
I would think, or maybe a male leg. I don't know. This seems weird.
A leg stand-in, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems weird. But the point of the plot is that John Ritter is like, the joke of the scene in the day, which is weird because it doesn't connect later. It was he was having sex with a large and tall woman, but I would look at this leg going, that's not selling Billy Bob or a large lady, perhaps. But that's the scene. That's what we're told. And so he gets called in with his little friend, and John Ritter, is like, Bob ships. That name is fabulous. I can't even say it. It's so good.
Chibiska.
But what I like about this scene, and I was going to ask you guys how you felt about this because we're watching it through the lenses of now. This is a scene where Billy Bob Thornton basically schools John Ritter and says, it's the anti-PC shit, right? It's like, my little friend, he's a little person, he's a person of color. You're going to say what to him? Because you can't fire us. And the truth is, they're criminals. They're trying to rob the establishment. We've established they rob establishments. But he's using white man grievance and trying to shame John Ritter. And this film does an extra level because John Ritter has to report to, irony or not, the Black Bernie Mac manager who's like, I'm fine with it. And then they turn the tables because Bernie Mac now says, oh, someone committing a crime, I want to cut. And then they talk about how Bernie Mac tries to steal the thing because he's fine with.
So maybe this movie was a little bit prescient in criticism of liberalism on a performatory basis.
Yes,
maybe I just. Okay, so here's the thing. Like in 1999, we had American Pie, and American Pie's whole thing is we want to do Porky's again. And if you sit down and ask me to find out what's funny about that movie from moment to moment, I can't help you. There's nothing funny about American Pie. However, Bad Santa is like sort of playing on that and turning it up to 100%. And I see what you're saying about misogyny, but I almost feel like at a certain point, like satirically, our director and writers were trying to lean into that at that time, like lean in and make it as offensive as possible to every possible group.
I think that's fair. I think misogyny, to paraphrase an orange felon rapist, is the point. It's offending everybody. It's just that the men get to do things and the women are all, I would argue, not written for. If you're Cloris Leachman, Lauren Graham has to pretend she's sexually attracted to this guy. Cool. Well, put the ladies aside. It's not about the ladies. Mm-hmm. This film is loved by men. It's not loved by ladies. But that's okay. So
Hillary likes it. I don't know what to tell you.
Hillary's special. And
She's
that's,
a weirdo.
no. She Avi, because but that's cool. But the target audience for this film was never women. And the people who made it are, some of them are in jail and for raping women, and the jokes or whatever. But when you watch it through the lens, it's not about the women, as most films are not. It's not about that. It's about, does the comedy work? It does for a lot of people, which is why we're still talking about it, and it's a perennial. I'm just suggesting that, because we're watching through current lenses, where half the cabinet members are going to be convicted rapists or people who paid women out. Like, it's actually caught up with itself. I don't think it's what Terry set out to make. I don't think that's the original script. It's certainly not what the Coen brothers wanted. So what we have is a hodgepodge at the beginning of this century. It works. This film is beloved.
I think my theory is that what I think that probably the original script was a lot more of a broad comedy, kind of like in the American Pie vein. Then they got Billy Bob Thornton to do it. And what Billy Bob Thornton is very good at actually is playing an immense asshole, but also making him a likable asshole. And the one thing that the one plot arc that they have that they do very well, which is the whole point of the movie, is the relationship between Thurman and Willie, and that connection of, here's a lost man who is being seen, even though it's by a dorky little kid. And the best line in the whole movie is when he tells the kid, you know I'm not Santa, then why do you want me to bring you a gift? And he goes, because I thought you were my friend.
Yeah,
right.
And that's the point of the movie, and that's the whole thing. That's the redemptive arc in it, and that's the whole point of it. But I think that it was supposed to be a much more broader comedy. I think it was supposed to be more
right.
But then Billy Bob Thornton was so good at leaning into the nastier aspects of it that they were like, oh, well, that'll play more towards the guy, so let's lean into that a little bit more. Let's cut out all the broader stuff.
And to be fair, his film was cut. The director's cut was shorter than what the Weinsteins released. But I think the thing that's amazing, and this goes back to Billy Bob may not always be my favorite person, but Billy Bob is a fantastic actor. And he does tears better than anybody. And he's like Demi Moore with the tears. He's so good. And he owns the last half of this movie. And I think this is why this film, it works for men, and I'm sure many women, Hillary likes it. But I think what I saw as somebody who does this for a living and was still doing it as a living back in the day, not having seen it in the theaters, was I was in the studio game getting studio notes and seeing really great scripts bought and then kind of, I don't want to say emasculated, but from the bite or the wit or the humor or the whatever. And so I think this film works because the Coen brothers had a great idea. I think Terry is probably not the best director, but is a great storyteller. And that's a complicated thing we don't have to break down on this right now. But there's a sweetness because at the end of the day, Billy Bob can deliver the tears and the acting. So he's kind of a total, I would say, dick for the first two, because that's the assignment. But Billy Bob is almost like he's such a good artist. He can't help himself. So the third act of this film, he's giving a dramatic performance that to me is disconnected from the first two acts. And you guys, again, are the actors. You've been given scripts that you have to pull, shit out of nowhere. So I want, Britt, you're the guest, so talk first, because I know you've gone through this. And then, again, Todd, like you have too. When you're given a script that's disconnected, how do you make it work? Because I would argue, as someone who doesn't necessarily love Billy Bob all the time, he makes this work because he's giving a performance. How do you approach something where you're given lines that don't work or are not organic? How do you do it as an artist, as an actor? What's your approach to the scenes? Because when you get the gig, you have to sell stuff that may or may not be great on the screen. And for people who are listening, who are actors or want to be working, how do both of you, as men who have done this, how do you approach it? How do you do that?
You got to fill in the gaps for yourself. You have to create the story of the person that your lines might only be A, B, and C, but you also have to know what D, E, and F is, which is the other part of what's going on in there. And you have to create, I mean, you hear actors say this all the time, but even in portraying it, you have to make sure that you like the character, that you can see it as a human being and a real
You
person.
have to find how you
You
connect.
have to find the humanity in everybody when you're doing it. And
Okay.
yeah, sometimes you don't have a whole lot to work with. So you just have to kind of create it on your own and that sort of thing. I've known Todd and I have worked on shows together where neither one of us had very big parts, but we laugh about it at the time. But we had to create these full story lives of people that were only on stage or on screen for like 2 minutes. But you would ask us, and we know exactly what that character was doing as soon as that scene was over, and what the rest of their day was like, and this, that, and the other.
You're writing a bio for your character before you go on set. Is that how you get there?
Yep, that's how I do it.
I mean, that can be a preparation. Also, you know, if you have a small part, you can also learn on the fly. But the point is we don't, like, as an actor, I think the important takeaway here is you don't approach a bad Santa from a bad Santa point of view. You don't. It's a story. If I'm an actor and you hire me, especially if you're paying me, like if I'm not getting paid, then if I'm on your project, then it's because I like it. But if you're paying me and I'm not sure about it, I don't judge it at all. You give me the bad Santa script, I'm going to do the best I can from within that realm. It's the only realm.
Based on the text.
Based on the text, it's the only realm that I mean, there's not just text. I mean, like a screenplay comes with players and crews and everybody else. So there's a lot of input that you get as you go along. But if you're starting with the text originally and you don't understand it, like I auditioned for a Korean martial arts movie the other day. Where everything was translated to English. And Britt and I have both worked on something where we were working with somebody who was translating something from English to English rather, and English wasn't their first language either. So it was like a Bulgarian translating a Italian thing for us. So what I was given made no sense. So the best thing that I could do was just dive into the story and figure out where my character was. And that's what we all are, all of us on the creative side anyway, producers included, is we're storytellers. We just want to tell a story. So we're in our part. Actors are no different than a grip, no different than a producer, no different than a director, no different than a background actor. It doesn't matter. We're all just diving into the story as best we can. And you're lucky as an actor if you get a point of view to dive into. So I can totally get, like, if I was Billy Bob Thornton and I was given Bad Santa, I would have done, like, I'm not saying I would have done it as well, but I would have done as much, and I would have fallen into it as much, because you're given this permission. I mean, Billy Bob Thornton's given this permission to be as horrible as he wants to be. I think he's a bipolar individual, so he has like these incredible emotional ranges as a result. So he's given this green light to be as horrible as he wants to be, and it'll still not be horrible at the end of the movie. That's a fucking gift to be given as an actor, a gift. So the fact that he fell into it and made more of it, and they made a sequel out of it just because his performance is so good.
I love this because that's why I love actors, and I always trying to develop good stories for actors to make us look better. Just a question for the peanut gallery. I think this film works for a lot of people because he gets to be this guy who's, my boy pals would say he's a cock for the first 2 acts of the film. He's awful. And, but he's so good and funny And then when he does this thing, which is why I haven't gotten to this point because we're not to the synopsis, he gives a beautiful dramatic performance. I don't necessarily get the comedy for the first 2 acts, but the dramatic change when he's like tearing up and doing the thing, and I'm like, I think Billy Bob is actually kind of a great dramatic actor. He can do comedy. I'm not here to argue this, but this comedy may not be my tone. But he does something that takes this tone for the first 2 acts as an actor, and I'm like, as somebody watching it out of time, I'm like, this is a really great performance. Like, I don't know if he won a Golden Globe. I don't think he did, but like the range as an actor that he is able to do, even it doesn't matter if it's for me or for not. I can look at it objectively as a piece of art and go, this dude is like
If someone wrote
growing
Brit,
up and being
Brit,
gorgeous as an actor. I love seeing actors shine, and I
yeah,
think he does. I think
Brit.
it's really
I
great.
mean, would you take this job? I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
wouldn't you want someone to write you this to do?
Yes. To be able
Even
to
though,
get so into the far realm of a character as he does at the very beginning and be so
Right?
disgusting. And then
Right?
being able to give an arc. But I mean, I think that's kind of what we've been saying through all these different points is that
But he's also, and can I say, because as the token chick on the show, I think men, I mean, this is not gonna blow up the world. I think sometimes you fellas don't like to be vulnerable. Sometimes hard for men to be vulnerable, but like, especially in comedy, because you're supposed to be cool. The guys who beer pretzel.
just because I don't love Actually, I don't love Actually,
I love
Right,
that
there we go.
type of.
doesn't mean I'm an insensitive man.
No,
I-
of course.
No,
You're one of
you're
my
an
favorite.
insensitive man for so many other reasons.
That's not fair, and
It's
he's one of
just
my
like
favorite.
the
You
It
don't,
one of the
you,
doesn't
breaks
sound
of the
good.
Great
you,
Wall.
you can't do the thing with my partner. I love him so much. But here's the thing that's interesting, and I'm just going to throw this into the conversation because we're having a conversation that I think might be a little bit smarter than maybe the movie. I'm just going to throw it.
Oh yeah.
Is that all right? I'm going to be a film nerd and throw this at you, gents, right now. So The Women was a classic film in the Hollywood era, and the gimmick, and it was a gimmick of The Women back in the day, was we don't have any men and women just talk about this and it's about the women's picture. But the irony is the entire setup for The Women was, yeah, you let the biggest stars of MGM talk about the women with no male stars, but all they did was talk about men. You're failing the Bechdel test if we're going to be modern, right? And then Diane English, who is quite extraordinary, who in her heyday was doing things like Murphy Brown and was then punished for being as smart as being able to write Murphy Brown. Dan Quayle was so offended he couldn't spell potato, but he knew that a single woman like Murphy Brown shouldn't have a child. Anyway, so that, but women, there's this thing about, are you likable? And a female lead, if I did Bad Mrs. Claus, I don't think I get 2 acts for a woman to be fucking hateful, drunk, pissing on herself and being an asshole and fucking over a small black person. I don't think I get to do that. So she can be tearing up in a close-up and it works in the 3rd act. Now, then, ever.
Yeah.
Because men and women are different. #, true story, obviously.
Isn't there a Charlize Theron movie called like Young
Monster.
Adult or something?
Yeah, and I would argue,
Yeah.
we talk about that on another show. I think it's not one of Cody Diablo's most realized scripts because I think, and I love Charlize, but I don't think she nailed that. But we'll say that for another thing. Someone bring us that so we can have that conversation. But what's interesting about Bad Santa then and now, it still works because you can be a chain smoking, drunk, pisses on himself, mall Santa who steals from people who pay you, and you're a fucking asshole who's somehow a hot person who's on Gilmore Girls hiatus, fucks you in your car, cool, you're straight, but you can have a moment of, hey, the kid who's as lame as I was, because my dad was abusive, which is the plot of the film, and just for those who haven't seen it, says something neat, and I pound your bully, and then you work up tears before the cops blow you away and you die almost messianic style, but you don't because we bring you back and there's a voiceover and it's all good. There's not a female version of this movie, which is not a good or a bad thing. It's just true. And watching this film for me at a time for the first time for the show, I was struck by Billy Bob as a great dramatic actor. I don't think this. I think Britt, you nailed it. I think this film is so cut up. It's very Edward Scissorhands, but there's so much gold. We're talking about it, and it's a perennial. And you brought it to our show, despite all the stuff that 21 years later it wouldn't be made today. Again, I'm not making a judgment if that's good or bad, but I kind of like the salad. I kind of like the mess. I kind of like the human moments of this film that are captured. And I kind of think it's interesting to think about from a storytelling perspective. There is not a female corollary to the story. That's okay. But what would the male corollary of this story, if we remade it, because that's all we do anymore, if we remade Bad Santa today, who would star in it? And would it be different? Would we say anything different? And again, I'm with two beautiful men who are actors and feel these things. I just want to throw it out to you both. Britt, your guest first, and then Todd. If you were to make it today, who would you cast as the lead? And what would you change anything, or would it be the same? Britt.
Well, you could change it by making like a Ryan Reynolds in it, but that's a different movie. He could pull off the nastiness of it and that sort of thing. But he leans more into that slapstick style, which I think this movie was originally supposed to have. To find someone who can do the comedy aspect of the horribleness of that character as much as
Jeff Lewis is correct. Yeah. Bad Teacher was the analog to.
Well, and the other one, she's
not as hateable and she's still hot. Just saying.
But then they also had that. What was it? Bad Mom. Wasn't that
Bad Moms, Christmas?
They had a Christmas one.
There's too. Rough Night. There's a lot of women behaving badly movies.
This was the first one of this kind of genre of really kind of bad people. It's not that we didn't have crazy Christmas movies before this, but it was kind of like, I think the most risque one probably was like Christmas Vacation at this point, which just had a little bit of it, but it's the first one that really kind of goes raunch in Christmas movies. I think I can't remember one before. But since then we have had a series of this sort of thing.
Well, and also, back to my earlier point about American Pie in this particular time, it's there was a revolt, and this was a revolt against political correctness.
Yeah.
So like movies always take like 2 years to make. So they like comedy always comes late. And you're lucky if your comedy comes in and it's funny at all. But this one did, according to Tracy, purely for a male audience, but at least like some jokes landed. And I think that's, maybe we were playing more to a male audience back then than we are now, blah, blah, blah. I don't fucking know. But all I'm saying is jokes landed. And for me, that matters. I think this movie's deeply irresponsible. That's one of the things I like about it. I think it's deeply stupid. That's one of the things I like about it. I think it's deeply irreverent about Christmas, about Santa Claus, about family.
Todd,
the irreverence is great.
I agree. Why do you think it's irresponsible? I don't know that I think it's irresponsible. Why do you?
Oh, I was just saying that from the point of view of like a Christian person.
Oh, those people. Well, they voted for Trump. So anyway,
it's irresponsible. Okay. It's irresponsible for people who are easily offended. It's deep. Yeah, but before we need to, because it's getting late, we need to wrap up our discussion. But before we do, I do have one of the scenes. I have a clip of Bernie Mac and John Ritter talking about what John Ritter's seen in the women's Big and Tall.
A couple of days ago, I was in Women's Big and Tall, and I heard, these noises. And I heard a woman screaming, "Yeah, oh yeah." And then I heard his voice say, "That's right. You're not going to SHIT right for a month." Don't get me wrong. I was against the Clinton impeachment. I think what a man does with his penis is his own business, in the Oval Office or women's Big and Tall. It's not for the American people to decide.
You're right.
But when you're dealing with children, they have a tender sensibility, and you're in a position of trust. I think perhaps that men having screaming orgasms with large women shouldn't.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't fire him for that.
Oh, yeah. Unfair practices, special pleading, bitch. Fucking broads.
I can't help, but there's something about the guy that just makes me uneasy.
Well, sure. Sounded someone fucking someone in the ass.
So maybe there's something I could fire him for.
Yeah, I get you.
Do you? Do you think you could find something?
Oh, shit, yeah. Or always something.
Oh my god!
I
You
forgot
guys
how great that scene was.
fucking cutting down. What? By the way, I need to say it again. You guys, sandwich tonight, but Todd does the Kubrick thing. Todd films, edits, shoots this. He nailed the pacing of this movie. Todd, this from a fucking filmmaking standpoint, yeah, girl. So good and Hillary as always. Mwah, 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 mwah. The role.
Let's do. Yeah, let's.
This might be
go.
the best.
No, they get better.
I mean, it's so.
It's a good way to go out. I thought it was very fun to do.
Oh my god, I love this. But also, you know what? I love that you picked that scene, and just as a final thought, and then I want you guys to, because again, this film was made for you more than me. But watching this film out of time for the first time, I was like, maybe because political correctness was an idea that came up on college campuses in the 90s, basically. And then it got badly reported and embraced in all the wrong ways.
I blame mostly the Red Hot Chili Peppers for that.
Yeah, buy a pair of socks or not, but totes. But there was something about political correctness that meant well, and then it's been, as everything else that's great, destroyed or whatever. But I love seeing what you and Hillary accomplished in that. That was, by the way, guys, if you're only listening to this podcast, just go and watch the video because they nailed it. Yeah, anyway, that's all I'm saying. But there's something about this, and I was watching this going, you know what? When this came out in 2003, it wasn't quite as well, we were still a democracy, sort of, more than we are now. But this film is absolutely a response to that movement. And watching it out of time now that certain people won, it plays differently. So I didn't see it in its time, but I can appreciate, and the scene that Todd and Hillary just did, how this would have been really embraced differently in 2003. And the film will be dated by the time it was made, like all comedy is. But the thing I will say that's positive about this film for me personally is it's obviously a response to the political correctness movement. I don't like Billy Bob a lot for the first two acts, but because he's such a good dramatic actor and he can turn it around and then own the third act, it kind of saves the film for me, because as someone who doesn't like comedy, I think his performance is in the third act is really interesting, and I can't see a film like this being made today. And I think Britt brought a lot of truth about why this was. I know my friends who worked on the film told me, I'm verifying what Britt said. He's right. It's interesting. Britt, what was it like to rediscover this film before?
Like I said, I didn't think, and I still don't think that the actual movie is much of anything. And I think the point that we keep making is it's the performances. It's Billy Bob's.
Yeah.
And it's the kids. I mean, the kid is actually really good in the
He's
movie. They do a great
really
job of never trying to sweeten him up, never
Don't
trying to make him
put drugs on his advent calendar.
He is constantly a little kid version of Willie, that he's just disgusting. And they constantly have him with the snot running down his thing, and he just. But in the whole thing turns when, I mean, you say in that third act, the beginning of the third act is when he goes and beats up his bullies. When it becomes that the rude guy, and this is just America at its finest, when the rude guy who you fucking hate all of a sudden's on your side and starts fighting for you, which is unfortunately, I thought of what I think America is going on right now, then everybody likes to like it. And everybody likes that person then, because then now you're on our side.
It's like My Bodyguard. Everybody forgets about
that. Chris.
That's going to be my next film if you guys have me back. It's my.
And the greatest irony of that movie is the bodyguard is played by Adam Baldwin, who is a real life piece of shit internet troll bully. So I don't know what to tell you about our society.
Oh, wow.
Who we put in our movies.
But I think, Britt, I love that you just said that, because it makes me think, like, there is something about this, like this guy who felt like his dad beat him up, and he is playing the victim as a lot of white male privilege does. I'm just hypothetical. I'm a victim. You're at the top of the food chain. Just even if you're at your worst, it'd be different if you actually, were a DA and then, an attorney general and vice president, and senator, whatever. But you'd be a grieved white guy who's, it's true. And there's something about the sweetness. And I'm sure as day, because I developed films in this era. I think, Britt, you were right without even reading the script. I can feel there are smart, interesting, really interesting male things that were left out. This is a short runtime, even for 2003. They cut out some heart, they cut out things, but the performances by actors like you two gents and enough of the DNA in the script makes it. Terry is not a visualist, but I think a thought-provoking storyteller that works despite the Weinstein editing thing that got us here. Interesting. I'm really glad you brought this film tonight, because I would not have seen it. And so thank you.
I just want to say this about Bad Santa, and I get all your criticisms, and they totally make sense. I think part of the reason this movie does stand the test of time on some level, where people bring it up and obviously are watching it.
Beloved.
Yeah. And I think that it's because, unlike a lot of Judd Apatow movies at the time, Um, this movie was cut entirely to what was funny. We're just trying to jam in all the funny stuff that we caught, and all that plot hole stuff that you guys are like, well, where was that? I'm like, I don't fucking care. They cut to the funny.
And even smarter, sorry to interrupt, but is that they found the right kind of, I think that there was still a lot of funny left on the floor, but it didn't match the style of Billy
right.
Bob Thornton, and the same thing that Bernie Mac brought to
Well,
it.
and I think it ultimately, whatever the plot stuff that wound up on the cutting room floor not only didn't cut well to the comedy, but it also didn't cut well probably to all this movie was doing, which was aping a classic Christmas movie. It has all the structure of It's a Wonderful Life, any given Scrooge movie, even like A Christmas Vacation, like any Christmas movie, like it's always about the main character has some sort of, come to Jesus moment. This movie has it. And that's all it's trying to build to ultimately, while being horribly inappropriate the entire time. The leaning on the misogyny, I think, is a really good point. I think it's just intrinsic in a lot of comedy filmmaking at this time. And I can't tell you why comedy was like up till even up till now, it's more male leaning. I mean, we tend to celebrate male comics more than female ones right now. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not a huge fan.
Here's the thing, and again, I'm a Gen Xer, so maybe I'm less offended by things than others. I don't know. I mean, I can be offended a lot. Talk to me if the orange rapist felon. But going back to this, because we're not going down that rabbit hole. And I miss this about Hollywood right now, because I think there's a problem. I mean, I've been producing for like 25 years now, and there are words that are used in my profession that I do not like. Quadrants. There are 4 quadrants. And I think it's very fucking retro. The 4 quadrants are male, female, under 30, over 30. As if there aren't people who are not identifying as male or female. Hi. As if 30 means anything anymore. If you're having a midlife crisis at 20, get back to me, right? Hi. So it's all nonsense. Most people can't afford to go to see a movie anymore because we've jacked up prices, all these things. But once upon a time, in the era of the film we're here to talk about tonight, we made Bad Santa. And it was a Frankenstein's monster of stitches, as we've enumerated, I think pretty thoughtfully, because you guys are awesome. I think, Britt, I thank you for bringing this with all the skepticism and the where's this plot and this and that. And you guys are actors and you're artists, and you feel these things intrinsically. As a producer, I can see stories and I go, whatever. It's really okay. It's really fucking okay to cast Billy Bob Thornton a couple years after Sling Blade being a fucking dick in a movie that some of us might not find funny, some might. And then in the third act, because he's so talented, and he is so talented, he can suddenly turn into a dramatic actor. And I'm like, why am I crying that he's in the with the bunny and I gotta get the not bunny, an elephant.
Yeah.
To the kid, and I'm like, I am now moved emotionally 20 years out of
I get that. I mean, I would argue that was in his performance from the beginning, and it wasn't a trick.
Yes. No, it's not. I'm not saying it's a trick. I'm saying
but at least Billy Bob Thornton knew where he was going.
No, he knew where he was going. I'm just saying, for me, not funny for 2 acts, and then he's dramatic and interesting. But if it's funny,
you didn't, yeah.
Right, but if it's funny, having girls who would never.
It's absolutely laughing at an abusive human being.
No, but here's the thing. That's okay, because guys like that get to win, because we now have a rapist in the White House for the second time. It's fine. What I'm saying is, not every film has to appeal to everybody. But if you love film like Todd and I do, and now Britt, I'm bringing you into a club because you now come back a second time. You need to come back a third time. But
This is my third time. It's fourth time next.
is it fourth time? Fuck.
This is
Oh,
next
we have
time,
to,
of course. This is
that
the-
means next time we have to give him a jacket.
I was about to say, when do I get the jacket? Is it
We
4
need
or
to
5?
do t-shirts. We have a very low production budget. What I'm saying is, though, and I say this lovingly, my fiance does not like romantic comedies. And I'm like, it's so funny because you're the best romantic comedy I've ever been in. True story.
Oh, that's good.
did you get in
It's not
trouble for
lying.
that?
It's not lying. It's true. But I was like, but I understand why you don't, because not all women are set up to love romantic comedies. Not all men like this kind of thing. Here's the thing. This film was made back in the day at a budget that it should have been made at, and it made a profit. And it doesn't have to appeal to everybody. And I would like to get back to a time where comedies don't have to be PC. I actually, and this is, God help me, I'm going to say this now. This comedy is not for me, but I was like, you know what? 21 years later, I love that they're making these jokes. It doesn't matter that's not for me. I'm not offended. I don't care. I love that they did this. And I was like, you know what? I see why this works for the men in my life. And I like that. I don't have to agree with it or love it or embrace it or whatever. Just like I don't need my fiance to go, Titanic's okay. She doesn't think it. You, Todd, and Kim are like, fuck Titanic. Same.
Fuck
But
those-
but I like Titanic, and she understands why I like Titanic.
Why would you like a ship that sinks and kills all those people?
Because, you know, I'm
Horrible thing to like.
a kiss, bitch. But here's what I'm saying. Here's the thing. I'm tired of again, as a Gen Xer, I'm tired of everybody being offended by whatever. It's like, you know what? The Kardashians offend me. But here's the good news about me. I've never watched an hour of Kardashian anything.
Yeah.
So if it makes people happy, great. You know what? I have so many female writer and director friends who do and get to live life large because they direct and produce Hallmark films. Hallmark films are not for me. Bad Santa is not for me. I want Bad Santas to keep getting made. I want my Hallmark friends. I'm going to watch Aliens and go, you guys, Sigourney is the fucking Messiah. That's me. I don't understand. I don't have anyone else who needs to understand. We need to get over this categorization. Does it make you laugh? Does it get you off? Are you happy? Films should challenge you. What I want is for people to go back into fucking cinemas with people they love or they like or they even
Well, maybe they will when they start putting movies other than Wicked that people actually want to see. I'll say real fast before we do. We got to do our last segment.
I can't let that go.
We got to do our last segments.
Wicked is making a lot of money because it makes people happy. We don't have to like that either. I'm just saying I want people to be going into movies, supporting film. I don't care what it is, even if I don't like it. I just want people to go back and support films.
They're supporting Wicked in record numbers.
Thank God, because we would
sleep well at night. They could have gone to see The Order with Jude Law, which is awesome, but they didn't. Let's do this. Let's do Be Bad or Be Best. Tracy and I are gonna name some titles of movies. We're gonna ask Britt Layfield if they're so bad you shouldn't watch them, or they're so bad it's awesome and you should.
Okay.
Tracy, you want to go first?
You can go first.
All right, I'll go first. Here we go. Here's mine. It seems pretty obvious. It's called Bad Santa 2, starring Billy Bob Thornton and all the people from Bad Santa 2, except the lady from Gilmore Girls, who was replaced by the lady from Mad Men. And also it's got Kathy Bates as Billy Bob Thornton's mom. Britt, Be Bad or Be Best?
Be best. Yeah, let's follow up on with another one. Yeah, you know, you're doing the same kind of thing. Probably not to the level of success they had the first time. You know, the kid's a little too old, but you're bringing in now you got, instead of Cloris Leachman, you get Kathy Bates in there. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and they don't Cloris Leachman Kathy Bates.
No.
a driving factor in Bad
She
Santa 2.
is a plot point unto herself.
Yeah. Tracy? Be Bad Be
Didn't see Bad Santa 2 because I didn't see Bad Santa 1 until I had to for the show. Because I just think I can smell Billy Bob, and it's hurtful.
It's a smelly. It's the Billy Bob.
But here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to say be best. I'm going with Brit here because hashtag if Kathy Bates shows up, I think she's a national treasure. I think we have to pay attention. And I will say this, and I don't think I've seen this or said this on the program, because I'm a Gen Xer who is very aggrieved. I was like, I mean, I had a pretty big hit show on CBS, and then I've watched what they've done, and I have feelings. And someone says we're going to remake Matlock. I was like, that's super interesting. And they're like, we have Kathy Bates. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have to watch it because Kathy Bates. And then I watched the pilot of Matlock. Friends who've listened to this podcast, you know how I feel. I don't say this lightly. The pilot from Matlock is amazing. It's not a remake of Matlock. I'm not going to give anything away. And Kathy Bates is still a treasure, and that she has 15 to 20 million Americans watching her on CBS with the new remake of Matlock, which is not a remake of Matlock. I am going to say
it's meta.
Pete, I wish it were that cool. It's not that cool at CBS. It's smart though. So I'm going to give Bad Santa 2 I love, because Kathy Bates, I will never watch it unless someone brings it to the show.
We'll just assume it's awesome.
But because Kathy Bates,
it almost fixes all the problems you had with the first one, according to what you've said throughout the show.
Because Kathy Bates,
but also it makes a woman behaving badly a central character. That's all I was going to say. What's your movie, Tracy?
Kathy Bates is not behaving badly in Matlock. It's more complicated. Watch it.
No, I get that. Oh, also, friend of the show, Alexandre Antoine, is a guest star on an episode of the Kathy Bates Matlock.
Even more reason to watch it. Jeff Luce, I just want to give you a shout out for the people who are only listening, can't see. Tracy, you surviving Christmas. You can survive Bad Santa 2. And I love that Jeff has faith in me. I just want to
too.
Thank you, Jeff.
What's your selection?
Okay, so my selection for we're doing
Be Bad, Be Best.
Bad, Be Best.
Yeah.
Okay. So I struggled with this one a little bit.
What's taking? Just show.
She's still struggling.
I just feel like, because I feel like people are going to be judging me. This Christmas Evil. This Christmas, you better believe in Santa or he'll slay you, which I think is a good pun. Merry Christmas crossed out. And I want to pull proper attention to, this is a Norman Rockwell, New York Evening Post, copyright infringement, maybe, poster called Christmas Evil, the night he dropped in. I freaking love, I'm sorry first, I'm going to violate the rules because we're going into Christmas. I love this movie. I think it's underappreciated. The fact that it's sadistic, it's violent, it's gross, it's awesome. And the fact that the one sheet is doing a Norman Rockwell Saturday night evening. I love this so much. And I just wanted to pimp it out and say Christmas Evil is a story about a dude who it's like, no one appreciates Christmas. # war on Christmas before Rupert Murdoch. There's no war. Spoiler alert. But this guy works in a toy factory. He's like, they don't understand Christmas. And then he starts to just blow it up. And in an era where some son of a rich guy blows away a CEO and everyone wants to make him a hero.
I
Watch
don't know. I don't know about that.
watch Christmas Evil, because I feel like this is like the spirit of Christmas, but through a dark lens. And I just wanted to say, have you, Jen, seen this film? Be Bad, Be Best. What do you think? And do we not love the cover? Anyway,
It's a great poster.
I would say the poster is great. I would say the movie is probably not.
Oh, have you?
I
What
have
happened?
not seen it. I've never seen.
Are
Oh,
you giving that a be bad? Is that a be bad?
I'm gonna go with the Be Bad.
Oh,
But,
okay, Britt.
yeah.
Really cool.
I'm
Say
wrong.
Be Bad without seeing.
I can't say it without saying it.
Watch it. No, you can totally say that. But watch it, and when you come back next time to the show, let's catch up.
Amend my answer.
No, only if you feel it.
Okay.
Let's be subversive, because I feel like anti-Christmas shit is kind of fun. But trust me, it's kind of great. You tell me what you think.
I will. I'm assuming you have seen this, right, Todd?
I've seen it 5 times.
I own it on
I
disc.
had no doubt you owned it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so-
terrible.
No, it's
Be Bad.
terrible.
It's a be best. It's
You
so
are-
bad. It's great.
Oh, okay, there you go. There's my partner.
Love it to death. Let's do this. When bad films happen to good actors. Britt, this is a recent addition to our end segments. When bad films happen to good actors. Tracy, what's a bad film that's happened to a good actor?
Okay, mine. I usually just put up a poster, but I
Yeah.
have to clarify it because the times have found me. As Nancy.
Oh God.
A Bad Mom's Christmas.
Okay. We brought this up before.
Brought this up
Yes.
earlier. You guys were vibing. So here's what I'm gonna say. I love everybody in this film, but Susan Sarandon.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody and Cheryl Hines. Cheryl Hines and Susan Sarandon should maybe go down on each other and become.
Yeah, it's a horrible bunch.
It's
The-
a
the
terrible
elderly cast
fucking
is
movie.
horrible.
But I just want to say, when you have Christine Baranski, Catherine Hahn, Kristen Bell, and Mila Kunis, I just feel like this is a terrible film. Again, aside from Cheryl Hines and Sarandon, who are dead to me, this film is dumb. But there's a weird thing, because, and I do want to acknowledge this for our my favorite shitty movie audience. We had an election where, a rapist felon who happens to be orange, twice impeached fuckface, won, and is nominating other rapists for key cabinet positions who can't even manage 501c3s.
We weren't going to make this political. This is
Not
about
making it
bad
political.
moms.
I'm just saying.
I get you.
This film is a cast I would love to work with, and it's just so terrible. Again, I don't care if Sarandon and Cheryl or whatever,
You have
but
to get by some stuff.
But the rest, I mean, Cheryl's like, yeah, RFK Jr., whatever. Vaccines don't matter. I'm like, okay, polio wants you to hold.
Do you like Bad Moms Christmas, Britt? Have you seen?
I do. I can totally get what she comes from, because Susan Sarandon is horrible in it.
Yeah,
but I also find that it is a less successful example of what happened with the Bad Santa series. So they made one. It was really good. They went for the money of it all. They were able to pull it off a little more successfully with Bad Santa 2 than obviously a Bad Mom Christmas.
Right. I feel like Britt totally sees me. Oh, that movie is Celeste sees me.
Yeah, well, no, I get anyone saying that Bad Moms Christmas is so bad, but I also thought that Bad Moms was terrible.
Really?
So I actually, for me, Bad Moms Christmas did all the stuff that I wanted Bad Moms to do and didn't. And so it felt like the first movie pulled back on the badness. I thought this one went more full hog on the badness, so I enjoyed it more. That's just my take.
We
All right.
for that. It's good.
All right. What were we talking about? What's my thing?
What's your thing? What's
What
your
are
good actors?
bad films?
Oh, yeah, bad films that have good actors. Here it is. I wanted to pick something that was holiday related.
Okay.
And certainly you guys understand that Junkanoo is a New Year's celebration
Oh, I know what this is.
in the Bahamas. Britt and I were there in the Bahamas one year, and we got to celebrate Junkanoo, which comes right after Christmas. So it's a holiday movie. It's called Jaws: The Revenge.
This time,
It stars Michael Caine and Lorraine Gary and Mario Van Peebles, but
And Lance Guest.
right. And I was gonna say the actor I'm choosing that this movie shouldn't have happened to is Lance Guest, because Lance Guest is adorable and delightful. He's the last Starfighter. He's so many great things.
He's on Halloween too.
And he is doing his gorgeous leading man best in this movie to make it work. And everybody, and including Michael Caine, and everything is working against him. And I've never felt more for an actor than I have watching him in Jaws: The Revenge. I feel for him. He did his fucking abject best. He's great in it. And sort of undersung. Everybody's like, well, Michael Caine was in it. And it's like, no, he wasn't. Michael Caine was in his house in England mentally while he was making this movie. Anyway, you guys have seen Jaws: The Revenge?
Yes.
Oh my God. Own it proudly.
Do you agree? Do you feel
Go Brit?
do you feel bad?
But I've definitely seen it.
Do you feel bad for any of the other actors in Jaws: The Revenge?
No.
Outside of Lance Guest? No. Okay, that's fine.
They all got paychecks. That's even Michael Caine as
well, it's a funny
career as he has had. He just got a check. Mario Van Peebles is actually horrible in that movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Real
he's not only horrible, but then I saw it in the theaters in the United States, and in the US theatrical release, his character got fucking chumped and that was it. But then they released it overseas after the test scores were so bad. They're like, how could you kill Mario Van Peebles? So they did these crappy reshoots and re-released it overseas where he lives. And that's the version that we're stuck with now. And I'm like, God damn it. Just give me the Mario Van Peebles doesn't come back version. That sounds great.
I have a story about that. I grew up in Orange County, not a Republican, but grew up there. And so my parents had this little timeshare. 1 week a year, we can go to Laguna Beach and pretend we had money because we could be on the ocean and do the thing. And so Dad and I were like, Dad's like, let me teach you how to boogie board. This is the last time I was ever in a bikini, and I love the world so much. That's the last time that shit's ever gonna happen. I love you. But I was on bikini, and Dad was like, this is how you boogie board. But I was like, oh my God, I'm totally getting this thing, Dad. This is great. I can't surf yet because, whatever, like 10. And so we're surfing, and I'm in Laguna Beach, and I look up. There's like a biplane. I swear to God, it was a biplane. It was like from the fucking 20s. And there's like a streamer going, Jaws for the Revenge, Jaws for the Revenge. I was like, I'm in the ocean, learning how to boogie board, seeing Jaws for the Revenge. I was like, I'm going to go back to his yard. I was like, don't do the thing. You can do this. Do the waves. I'm like, I want to go back to the I was like, oh, Dad, man. I was like, fucking this shark is going to, because I've already seen Jaws and Jaws 2. Because, again,
that plane was scarier than the movie.
No, I was like, they reminded me sharks are in the ocean.
Yeah, I know, but still.
No, what? I promise you, because I was a latchkey only child with the fucking Betamax. I knew there's the line in Jaws where they said most shark attacks happen in 3 feet with water. I'm like, no! I I'm in 6 feet of water. My dad's like, no boogie board, go. I'm like, meh. So I'm seeing this shit as I'm learning the boogie board. I'm like, we gotta go in. And so then dad's like, we're gonna get pizza at BJ's Pizzas. And then the film that was playing, which is why it was circling, Jaws for the Revenge, I saw at Laguna Beach opening weekend with my parents. It's so terrible and I love it. And so what I will add was that Michael Caine, I've learned, because you say my cocaine, but with a British accent, my cocaine is how Michael talks.
Michael
And
Caine.
so Michael Caine won his Oscar for Woody Allen's husband. What was it? Oh my God, Barbara Hershey. That movie. He couldn't go because he was doing reshoots for Jaws for the Revenge. And so then after that film came out, some reporter said, Michael Caine, my cocaine, Michael Caine, Michael Caine, Michael Caine. So you couldn't get your Oscar because you were doing Jaws for the Revenge reshoot. So if you watch the film, which we've talked about on My Favorite Shitty Movie before, it's all blue and great until they do insert shots at the Universal tank. So it's super dark. It doesn't match the blue. Hashtag pre-CGI kids. Anyway, and so this bitch reporter was like, just for you can get your Oscar for the Woody Allen film. Meh. And he's like, oh, I've never seen Jaws for the Revenge, but I could tell you my mother loves the house that bought her. And I'm like, hashtag yes, do that. I love this film. It's so junky. It's so terrible.
May we all be that rich someday.
God
Tracy,
bless.
let's wrap this thing up with the boost. What do
Okay.
you have to boost?
I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to do it super quick.
Cheating. I don't know. I can't trust you anymore.
No, it's like women after Trump won because hashtag white men voted, you know.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, more white women, so hashtag fuck them too. Anyway, I mean, we're not making a political show. So the assignment was we have to boost a show for whatever. And I'm going to do 2 in the time of 1 because we're going into holiday season. I just want to say, Todd will probably join with me on this when he does his. We're about to go 4 years in. We're about to go 200 episodes deep. I don't know how that happened. I want to thank everybody who watches and listens for that. So I'm cheating, and I want to boost 2 things because Todd and I are going to miss everybody for the next couple weeks because of the holiday seasons. So I'm going to do 2 movies I want to boost that are very old school. And I just wanted to do them because they mean a lot to me. And if you haven't seen them, I just want to encourage you to. I'm going to try to get this fast. I'm already failing. Okay. So the first, 1974, Bob Clark, Black Christmas. Here's what's cool about Bob Clark. And I'm not going to do him justice, but I'm going to try because hashtag quick. There are 2 holiday movies that are super always watched. Black Christmas, if you like horror. If you like comedy, you're going to do A Christmas Story. Bob Clark directed both. Yes, he did the Porky's too. Forget it. I'm just saying, Black Christmas is amazing because Black Christmas, the setup is girls in a sorority house. Most gals go home. The ones that stay, Margot Kidder, 2-fisting alcohol in every scene. We love her so much. Here's a revolutionary about Black Christmas. Bob Clark says, let's do it from the killer's point of view. John Carpenter sees Black Christmas. He copies that with we'll call it pen and scan, but like Steadicam for Halloween in 78. This comes out in 74. Also interesting, now that women don't control our bodies in 22 states and counting, that'll be 50 once Trump comes in. There is a subplot in Black Christmas where Elizabeth Hussey, who was Franco Zeffirelli's Juliet, talks to Kira Duela, who's way too old to be still in college, but who was already in 2001 Stanley Kubrick. she's like, I'm pregnant. I'm killing this shit because #no. This is 2.5 years after Roe becomes law. There is a plot in Black Christmas about abortion. The point of view, from the killer's point of view, Carpenter adopts to Halloween. Black Christmas is amazing and cool, and also a testament to the brilliance that Margot Kidder is, who 3 years later would be Lois Lane. I want to do that, and now I'm going junkie.
Just a quick interjection. One of the first. Let me interject really fast, Tracy. One of the first Anderson family reenactments, and you can look it up on our Facebook page, is from Black Christmas. Colby is brilliant.
He is brilliant. He is brilliant.
I'm
cutting Sightline Deadly Night because now we are in a Christian white nationalist country because 48.9%, but who's counting, voted for the rapist, orange, felon, racist, failed, whatever. Anyway. Yep. But back in the day, Silent Night, Deadly Night was a group of friends who were into film school, and they made a really good grindhouse movie. It upset all the right people in Reagan's America. And I just want to say, you made it through Halloween and you try to survive through Christmas. The fact that Silent Night, Deadly Night is also referencing in the original one sheet John Carpenter's Halloween, which was, see what I did there? Copying Bob Clark's Black Christmas, Halloween, themed horror, whatever. Silent Night, Deadly Night is fucking fantastic. And I just want to say, if you haven't seen it, see it again. And so I want to say, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
It's very exploitative and more for boys. I just want to point that out.
I'm just saying, but it's more for boys, but I like them both. Here's my copy. Mm-hmm. Here's Billy the action figure. And also the most elegant cover ever. The Black Christmas 4K is out. And you should see this because there is actually a commentary. I hate that Bob Clark is not with us. I hate that he was killed in a bad auto accident. But he talks this through. This is filmmaking in a box. No one's done it better than Black Christmas. And I just want to say, everybody who's still watching this silly podcast that Todd and I love, thank you. And I wanted to lift that up.
Those are good ones. Also, great Anderson family reenactment for Silent Night, Deadly Night. Look it up. It's great. Hillary's hilarious in it. I'm just going to boost this movie. And the reason why I'm boosting it is people are talking about it a lot because there's a movie that's a sequel to it that's coming out next year that people are excited about. But if you want to watch this movie, you cannot find it on streaming.
What?
You cannot buy it on a new disc. You have to find it used. If you can't find it used, you have to come over to my house and watch 28 Days Later with me. It's great. It's a good zombie movie.
Great zombie movie.
Yeah, come over and watch it because the only way you can watch it right now is with me. I'm really lonely, you guys. Come on over.
It's not true. And he has to copy and do that anyway.
Britt, do you want to have anything you want to boost, like a Soho Playhouse of some kind or a movie?
We have comedy at the Soho Playhouse. We're trying to laugh our way into next year. We have Janine Haruni and we have Josh Glantz from Australia. They're finishing out our year for us. And then we have a bunch of international theater coming in at the beginning of the year, which we're very happy about. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, you have mentioned to me the Soho Playhouse Las Vegas.
Yes.
What is
We're building a new theater complex in Las Vegas. We're actually taking over the old Huntridge Concert Hall, which is an Art Deco concert hall from like the 40s. But apparently everybody who ever came out of Vegas has played the Huntridge. We're taking that on as the main one. We're building 2 other theaters off of it to make a 3-theater complex that will open sometime early 2026.
That's great. Is there a room that I can stand in the building when I'm doing my one-man show that you're booking?
Oh, yes. Oh yes, it's a really nice. Some people would call it a closet. I don't call it a closet. I call it an arena. But
That's
Yeah.
I think closet is perfect because my whole one-man show is about cancel culture
yeah.
and how I've been canceled. by
So you'll
culture.
just play to an audience of one.
Yeah. It's a mirror. It's just a closet with a mirror in it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But I like what I do.
Thank you so much. I mean,
Thank you guys for
kept
having me.
me
I
way
didn't
too
know
long.
this was the last episode of the year. I'm honored.
No, thank you for
Yeah.
coming. Everybody, God, I hope you have a great holiday. Happy New Year. Let's hope there's good stuff on the other side. Thanks for watching us and being here. And I just want to thank Todd for being one of my favorite people and making this happen. I can't stress enough.
You're getting married. God damn it.
know I'm getting married, but I also just want to say, because I don't know that people get this if they casually watch, like every freaking week. Todd is directing, acting, pulling in his family, doing the thing. And
I take advantage of the people around me.
well, I'm not here to do a judgment. I'm just saying, guys, the film work is great. Todd is great. And he's just such a good actor and he's such a good man. And that needs to count again, despite Trump apparently winning for the first time for the popular vote. But I just really, I want to say to you, Todd, like, I thank you. Like, doing this with you every week is like, oh my God, I get to geek out every week.
Great. Thank you too.
And I'm so happy you're going to be at the wedding. And
Very excited about it. I'm going to have a party. I'm going to be, it like arbitrarily worked out that first class tickets were the same price as coach coming back.
I love that.
On my birthday, I'll be flying first class.
As you deserve to. And when I could go back to making films in my country again, we're gonna figure this shit out.
I would love to, like, if you do another one in Ireland, I would love to make a movie in Ireland. So keep me in mind for Ireland.
If we ever get to work again, I will do that. But I want to leave on a good note. I just want to say, Britt, thank you for bringing this movie, because I never would have watched it because I was pretty sure it was toxic, and I think I might be right, but it's all good. And
I don't think it's toxic. I'm fine.
That's good. You don't have to be. We're making Jeff. We're going to hold you to that. Do the thing. You're an accountant. And
Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff. Also, let's just do a shout out for Jeff, who I think is actually the best ever. And Jeff, you're amazing. And by the way, your tattoos are really hot. That's inappropriate, but I'm going to say it anyway. Orphan Black.
I have no sexual feelings about your tattoos, Jeff, but they're nice.
That's what he's saying now, live. I'm just saying, Jeff, thank you for being here almost every week and fact checking us and being great, and then telling our fans how to watch the stuff that we talk about, for free or minimal costs. You're amazing. Britt, you're amazing. And Todd, I just love you, and I can't wait to see you in real life soon. And
very soon. Maybe
everybody safe and enjoy the holiday season.
Yeah, be safe. Enjoy the end of democracy. We'll see you next time on my favorite shitty movie.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.